Welcome to Minot Matters here at the Dakota Inn, brought to you by Shocks Safe and Lock. I'm Jonathan Starr, and today we are joined by Rob Fuller, Alderman.
Yes.
And mayoral candidate.
Yes.
Thanks for doing one of these interviews.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks for getting the community involved and sharing everybody's story with them.
Absolutely. We're excited.
Good.
We're
different.
excited.
I'm on the different side of the
You
desk
are.
here.
It's been a while since you've been here.
Yeah.
So obviously, big campaign going on, and a petition got us here. You've had a campaign, a fresh start, stronger Minot is your campaign slogan.
Yep.
What does this mean?
Well, what does it mean? I guess what it means to me is we've had two of the other candidates that are running against me have been on the council for 8 and 18 years. Everybody in Minot is struggling right now. Businesses have been closing. People are paying more than ever. Part of that's federal, and I understand that, but a lot of it is based on the decisions that have been made here in Minot too. And, Mark and Paul have been a party to all of those decisions over the last 8 and 18 years. Every budget increase, every tax increase. They've sat on the dais for almost all of those. You can't be part of the solution if you helped create the problem. And so my idea of a fresh start is to take a look at the things we've been doing and how we've been doing them and change them and make them maybe more efficient, maybe less expensive, but certainly look at different ways to do things, because the mantra, well, that's the way we've always done it, irritates me. And I don't think we need to do that. We can modernize how we do some of the things that we've done. Other cities have done that.
Absolutely. Of course, you've been in Minot for a while. You've
born and raised.
Yeah,
I moved
we've
away
talked
for
about this
16,
stuff.
17 years,
Yeah.
and I came back here in 2012.
been involved in baking, been a business owner, small business owner.
Yeah.
How has those experiences helped shape kind of your view for this role from that perspective where policy makes a huge effect on it?
Well, I guess as a banker, obviously I helped other businesses start and operate and function. A bank has a certain role in that, right? I've seen the red tape that businesses have to go through to start, to operate, to run. I think we can eliminate some of that red tape. I think we can dial back some of the regulation. I think running my business, seeing what I got to see for those 10 years, being a commercial banker for 17 years and seeing what I got to see there, I think both of those life experiences help me to understand what our small businesses deal with on a daily basis or when they're trying to start here. And I think, I can be a little more empathetic because of both of those things towards the businesses. I mean, we need to grow our tax base in Minot. The only way to grow the tax base is to cut regulation and bring the taxes down so people want to move here and businesses want to move here. And ultimately, I think in both of the experiences that I have that you mentioned, that sets me up quite well to help make the decisions as to how we can change those things and make it easier in Minot.
Obviously, you've been on council for just under a year. We're almost at a year anniversary of a different election. How have you felt that coming against some of that red tape that you've mentioned and some of the policies that you've mentioned, how have you felt that has gone so far?
Well, I think over the course of the last year, you've seen a number of policies, codes, ordinances, whatever, that have come before us that we all sit up there and kind of look at each other and like, why is that in place? Or why are we doing this? Let's use the driveway one or some of the other instances that have come up. I think as they come up, we need to address them and look at them. But I also think one of the things we need to do is sit down and look at our ordinances, our policies, and our codes and say, okay, this is what makes it tough. Yep. This is why people say it's tough. This is why people say Minot's hard to deal with. Let's start to work some of those out. And I think ultimately it'll take a team effort, but we can get there and we can make it easier to do business in Minot, whether that be building, opening a business, selling land, whatever it is.
Do you get worried about sometimes Minot being open for business? It's a term that has been coined. Now we hear it at the dais and we hear it on both sides of arguments, simply when people are pushing agendas. from my perspective, it feels like agendas are being pushed.
Okay.
So that we go to.
So I'll
Minot
push
needs to
back
go.
on you then.
Yeah.
If it's an agenda issue, is there any truth behind it? Are we getting a lot of homes built in Minot?
So I'm coming from the perspective of we need to give a tax break to this to show that Minot's open for business, whereas the next time we don't need to give a tax break, but we are showing that Minot is open for business in a different way. There's no consistency in that. Is it something we should be worried about, that it's just kind of a argument that people are able to hide behind because it sells a point?
No, I don't think so. The Minot is open for business slogan, however you want to say it. I think Minot wants to be open for business. I mean, we do as a council. Mm-hmm. I think we do as a city, but we have a reputation, and we have some things that have happened that have showed we're not easy to deal with at times. And those are the things, again, whether it's real or perceived, perception is reality a lot of the time. And if that's what businesses here that want to come to Minot or people looking to Minot are hearing, we have to change that. Whether it's true or not, we have to change that. And so that's where we have to come together as a group, the council, as a city, and we have to figure out how do we change that. And that's where we want the public's input. That's where we want them to come talk to us and say, we need to try this or we should do that. I mean, that's how we're going to change things in Minot. I mean, we've been doing the same things over and over for a long time. Yeah. Right? We need to change how it's being done. We need to change the mindset and the culture in the government.
I want to dive into a couple of issues in a minute, but before we do that, I want to talk about leadership. Okay. And this is something that you spoke often about from the dais in other areas. How do you feel like your leadership style is going to differ, not just from a previous mayor, but previous 10 years? It's not targeting anything. How are you going to be different than what Minot's seen for the last 10 years?
Well, let's just take the last 10 years. One of the reasons I got on the council was because people weren't asking questions. People weren't giving oversight. I mean, the council's job is policy setting and oversight. Yeah. And when the city comes to you and says, hey, we want to do this and we want to spend this, and you just rubber stamp it and to say, yep, okay, go ahead. That isn't policy setting, and it is an oversight, right? Oversight means you make sure that we don't spend the citizens' tax dollars in a wasteful way. So how am I going to be different? I think people have already seen. I ask questions. I'm not afraid to say, hey, we need to take care of our local people over people from out of state. I mean, those are things I don't think anybody said in the last 10 years. And so that's how I'm going to be different. I'm going to champion local businesses. I'm going to make sure that our local contractors and our local people get a chance to bid on jobs that have not normally gotten the opportunity to bid on, or we're looking for something that they don't do. Yeah. I'm going to make sure that we're transparent as a city government. When something happens, we're going to tell the public. We're going to deal with it. We're going to take the lumps, but we're going to be transparent. And the other big thing that's going to be different is I want the community to come talk to us. You know, I want to hear what they like, what they don't like, and what we need to fix. Now, just somebody getting online on whiners and complainers and going, oh, everybody on the council sucks. That isn't giving us true feedback. Come talk to us. I'm not afraid to have a conversation with anybody. If you don't like something we're doing, or you don't like something I've done particularly, come talk to me. I'm not afraid to talk to you about that stuff. But true engagement, real engagement, conversation and dialogue back and forth, not just somebody getting on there and bashing on the council because that's their fun weekend thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, community input seems like it's something that is in a very high price commodity right there. It's really hard to get.
Well, it is. I mean, people want to engage, but they want to engage in an easy way. They don't want to, like when I say online, just bashing us. Get out and go to the meetings and come listen to what's being said and have the conversations with us. If you have a question or you have something that's come up, call us, come see us. Right. We want to know. I'm going to use one example. There's a house down by Corbett Field that I've been contacted about over the last month, even before I left for my son's surgery. And so I reached out to the folks in the city, and hey, are we aware of this? We weren't aware. Now we're aware. We're getting it, and we're working on it. We're cleaning it up. But all it took was the citizens to step up and say, hey, there's an issue here. And we started looking at it, and now we're cleaning it up. You know, it's stuff like that. It isn't always going to be that easy,
right.
But it's things like that with the engagement, you know. I know, you know, we've heard a lot over the last few months on the flock system.
Yes.
They're like, don't spend this, don't do that, right? Let's use the flock system as an example. I think the input that we've gotten from the community says, hey, that isn't something that we want. Now, I know the police department thinks and feels that that's a need for them and it would help them. But if the community you live in and the people that I represent don't think that, then we're not going to vote for it. Now, one of the gentleman that's running against me, he came in and shouted me down the other day about, I thought you were conservative. You tabled it and helped kept it alive. You know, I'll be honest with you. I don't believe it's even going to be put in the budget because we didn't give the police department consent to do it. So I'm pretty sure it's going to die where it's at on the table until we as a community decide it's something we want to look at again.
Right. Yeah, the flock system is something that's very interesting. How do you balance, though, voting based off of your opinion? Because everyone has it. That's not something that's targeted at anybody. Everyone has an opinion, so it's targeted at everybody, if anything. And based off of the feedback that you're getting from constituents.
Oh, a lot of the time, I feel like the feedback that I'm getting is about the same as my opinion, right?
Okay.
But there's always going to be times when it isn't. And people thought I was for the flock system, I think, when I agreed to table it. I am not actually for that system. But so how do I balance it? My job is to represent the community. So my opinion matters, but not as much as the community's opinion matters. So if the community says, hey, we're not about this, then we're not about this.
About it.
It's that easy. If we don't want to, they say, hey, don't spend the money on that, then we're not spending the money on that. That's how this government thing should work, but it hasn't for the last number of years here in Minot.
And what's the best way for a constituent to reach you?
You can email me. My phone number is on the city website. You can text me. I get a lot of messages on Facebook. People reach out all the time.
It's not hard to actually reach your council members.
It is not.
It is not. One more thing on leadership, or at least one more thing on leadership. Obviously, there's two things that you have to be concerned about in the mayor position, and that is leading a city and also leading, not directly, because there is a city manager, but providing direction to city staff as well. And have you thought about any potential challenges or how you plan on doing that to show support to the city staff, even though there's going to be times where you're not going to agree and be like, hey, you're wrong. That's a good thing, I think, when people get told they're wrong. But then also being able to provide that leadership for the city, that balance.
Well, I mean, I think, I guess, you know, the city manager's job is to lead the city, right?
Right.
He moves and the city moves at the direction of the council. I am always there for the people that work for the city of Minot to come talk to. I mean, I go talk to them as often as I can, or if they want to talk to me, I'm always there to talk to them. But I'm not going to give direction on how we lead the city unless we start to change things. I mean, do I want to work with the city manager if I become mayor and work more closely with the city manager and is to the direction that the council wants the city and to move things? Absolutely. I want to have that, that closer relationship, that working relationship that I don't think has been there for the last number of years. But again, it's not my job to tell the city employees how to do their job, right? You know, that'll come as a policy thing. And then it's the city department heads and managers' job to implement that for the council.
So you see it more giving direction to city manager, letting things trickle down from there, and then something gets brought up to the dais from a city manager, not from the city manager, but from a department manager. Sure. Then you might be like, hey, I view it differently. This is some direction or whatever for
Absolutely. Or even if it isn't on the dais, if it's a private conversation,
right.
you know, I mean, I've had conversations with department heads before, and they don't always agree.
Yeah.
You know,
that's good.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't want yes people. I'm
Right.
not looking for yes men.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not something that we need anymore. We've had enough of that for quite a while, I think. So I want people to give me their honest opinion, but ultimately my job is to make sure that the citizens in this community get what they need and what they want and what they deserve. And so in some cases, it may be that I have to, as a council member or the mayor, say, hey, we're going to override this. I'm sorry, I understand your point, but we're not going to do it that way.
Yeah.
And there will be times where they'll be like, hey, that's not the right way to do it. And we'll be, as a council, oh yeah, you know what? You're right. We shouldn't have done it, or we shouldn't try that. We're going to do it the way you said.
Yeah.
So that's how the relationship between the council and the city should work.
Right.
I don't think that's how the relationship has been working.
Makes sense. It feels like right now Minot is broken. Okay.
We're stuck.
We're stuck. But just with a lot of the big headline news that has come out of the city recently, feels like the citizens, the residents of Minot, are becoming a little disenfranchised with just what's going on. And I think even the fact that we're having this special election is proof of that.
I think we're all irritated by that. I mean, there was no need for this.
Right.
Am I happy it's going on? I've had that question. No, I think it's a waste of our money. But if it's going to go on, I guess then I'm going to put my name in the ring and I'm going to do it. Now, I said we're stuck. And one of my, the gentleman that's running against me, his thing is experience, right? Oh, I got the experience. Listen, we're not stuck for lack of experience, right? It has nothing to do with experience. We're stuck as a city because we keep taking the same ideas and rehashing them and recycling them and trying the same thing. We need to do things differently.
Right. How do we get disenfranchised residents that feel like Minot's divided, that feel like Minot's whatever? How do we get them re-engaged where they're maybe not giving input,
right,
but at least feel confident in their city?
So that's where transparency, I think, and integrity come into play, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people in town, and I was one of them for a while, right, when I ran last year, that didn't believe that the city was being transparent with us and didn't believe that some of the things that were happening were done with integrity, right?
Yeah.
I think what we have to do as a council and as a city is prove to them that we're going to start doing things differently. When something stupid or embarrassing happens, we're going to talk about it. When we make a decision, we're going to tell you why we made the decision that way. It's about being open, honest, and transparent. And doing those things, I think, will help the citizens. It takes time. I'm not going to say this is going to happen overnight. I mean, we've been looking at the same thing for 10, 15 years. So, I mean, steering that ship is going to change things, right? So
makes sense.
But I mean, it takes time. But we have to start to do those things. How do you build trust back? You have to show the community that we're going to do things the way that they think it should be done.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. Obviously, there's been some neighborhood meetings, community type events. There's been a strong effort by the city to give opportunity for inputs, and yet somehow it seems like the largest input that I heard coming out of those neighborhood meetings was recently at a flood meeting.
Last night?
Yes, a recent flood meeting where they're talking about traffic lights and they're talking about stuff that the engineers are like, hey, this is beyond us. Let's get the city stuff up here. It's really hard to get people to engage in these neighborhood meetings.
Well, and to your point, I agree. I mean, I've been to every neighborhood meeting with the exception of one. I was at the meeting last night, and I think there was probably 20 to 30 people there. That was some of the best turnout we've seen at these neighborhood meetings. I think there's two things. I think, number one, we need to give more lead time as a city to let people know when these things are. We need to, kind of with like this special election, make sure that everybody knows, hey, this is coming up. Hey, this is coming up. Hey, this is coming up. And I know Jennifer and the Public Information Office, they do a good job.
They do.
But sometimes I think we need to go overboard, right? Because when the citizens say, hey, I didn't know about that. Now, we all get busy in our lives and we all miss things, and I get that. But again, we need to, as a city, make sure that everybody understands things now or when things are happening. I want to see people come to these meetings though, and we haven't been getting that interaction. And I've heard people do not feel that what they say or what they do in this community matters, because the city does whatever the city does anyway. And what I'm trying to say, with me and Mike and Scott that got on the council last year, we are steering things in a different direction.
Yeah.
Give us the opportunity to show you guys that things are going to be different. Last year, first time in however long that you ever heard anybody on the dais say, hey, we're going to give property tax money back. Have you ever heard that in 15 years prior?
Yeah, that is not a common line.
Right. So we got property tax down 30 basis points last year. We dropped them 30 mils in Minot between the give back of the money and what we did with the budget. Now, Ward County and the school board and Park District ate up everything you saved, or we saved people, but we did that, and we're going to continue to do those things. That's what will show the citizens of Minot that we're moving in a different direction. We're going to go away from the, hey, tax and spend mentality, tax and spend. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't believe if Scott, Mike, and myself had been elected last year, we would be looking at buying a $50 million police station right now, rather than using the existing building that we have and maybe modifying it or renovating it a little bit. That, to me, is a waste of tax dollars. We can give the police and the department what they need without spending $50 million of the city's tax money.
Yeah.
I mean, every time we turn around, the park board wants something, the school board wants something, the city wants something. People are tapped out. They're done. And so we're going to move away from this tax and spend mentality.
Yeah, no, I agree that there's not a lack of people needing funding. So you have to be very selective in what that does and make sure it's the best for the future of Minot. Obviously, we just came off a vote here early June. There was a special election for the half percent sales tax. It failed. Less than 2,000 people voted.
Yeah.
That was with a week of early voting. What we're hearing from the city is for the August 5th special mayoral election, there's no early voting. Absentee ballots and day of voting only.
Okay.
Is this something that is a concern?
Absolutely. My question, and you told me this last night when I saw you at the flood control meeting. That was the first time I heard this. I went home and sent a text to the city manager and the assistant city manager, and I said, hey, how do we have a special election without having early voting? Like, was this something that was just missed? Was this something that was a decision because it wasn't brought before the council, if that was the case?
Yeah.
But every election that I've seen, I think that I can remember in the last 10 years or 12 years since I've been back in Minot, has had early voting since early voting became a thing. So how do we as a city now all of a sudden go, hey, we're going to have a special election for mayor, but you either have to go vote that day or you have to send in an absentee ballot? Park board just did it. Why didn't we do the same thing? To me, that's a huge miss on the city's part. And I think we have to address things like that. When we miss things, when we make mistakes, we as a city have to fix that and make it right. We got to stop. And no, I know nobody can be perfect, but something as simple as this, we missed on.
Yeah.
Right? Something as simple as this, we missed on. That's inexcusable to me. Like, this is an opportunity for the citizens to speak, and you're shortening that opportunity. And it's going to affect if some people can vote or not. And so, to me, I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, it brings up a whole discussion. We're hoping that 3,500 people at least get out and vote. If all those people showed up on one day, that's going to be
at
a pain.
one location.
And Minot has a working class, so you're going to have a lot of people showing up between 4 and 7. So there'll be very long lines then, and people just choose to avoid those. I want to know the rationale behind that decision, if it was just missed or if it was a conscious decision that was made. Because, again, if that was a conscious decision that was made, why wasn't it asked to the council? And second, if it was just missed, who was supposed to be monitoring or overseeing that? Yeah.
You know?
Be interesting to see how that plays out. All right. So obviously mentioned you have been involved in business in the Minot area for a while. Something that got reported that came out was that you owe several $1,000s in, it was stated as delinquent property taxes related to a property that had a business in it, and the business is now closed, and I believe the building is for sale.
Yeah.
Obviously, this brought some concerns about it. Anything that you have to say to those concerns?
Well, everybody, I've seen some of the comments online. First, I'll just say that none of it is in the city of Minot. There is no tax owed to the city of Minot. It's property tax to Ward County on the Spartan Firearms building, which is obviously, as you said, for sale. We're hoping to have it closed here soon. And as soon as the building sells, the property taxes get paid with the fines. And I think it's like $360 in fines is what it is. But it's a discussion that I had with the bank. It's a discussion, when the building was supposed to close last year before the second half of the taxes were due. Everybody's like, yeah, no problem. After that fell through, I went back to the bank and I was like, hey, you know what? We got another group interested. Do you care? And they're like, no, as long as it gets paid. And I told you this just a moment ago, the other day when I was in and talked to the bank, I told them if it doesn't close by the end of this month, then I'm going to go ahead and pay the property taxes so they're not farther than 6 months back. Bank's like, yeah, no problem, no worries. Here's what I will say about that. People are using that to smear me. You can't argue with my policies and what we've done on the council, so let's go character assassinate somebody. Rob Port wants to call me out and say all these things. That's fine. Doesn't bother me. I know more about business than Rob Port does, and I know that it's a very common thing in the sale of commercial real estate and ag real estate. And so it was a decision I made, and I'm not embarrassed by it. I'm not doing anything illegal, and nobody's beating down my door from the bank or the county. So I guess I would tell everybody to maybe just relax. And then when the building sells, all the property taxes will be taken care of.
Some have said because you have had a focus on budget and even limiting tax exemptions that it's a double standard. Do you feel like that would be the case at all here?
No, nobody gave me a tax exemption. Right. I mean, I'm not hiding from the tax. The tax is going to get paid, right? Yep. I'm not going to screw anybody.
Right.
So, excuse my French. But no, I don't think it's a double standard. I mean, I don't believe in handing out tax breaks to everybody on the planet. So that's... I would think that would be, I'm not asking for a tax break.
Right.
I'm going to pay the taxes with the fine for having paid them late.
Absolutely. Obviously, something big that happened in the end of last year was a police investigation.
Okay.
It went on for a little bit. That has led us to a series of events now. But going back to the police investigation, again, stuff that has come up in the community. Some have said that they've criticized your involvement with that.
Okay.
I think that's part of being an elected person. People have to criticize. Some have suggested that maybe it was motivated, just trying to get somebody removed.
Sure.
How do you respond to stuff like that?
Go read the reports.
Yeah.
That's my only response. Go read the reports on Klug. Go read the reports on the other officers that were done and see what was going on in our department. And if you think that those people shouldn't have been removed or there wasn't disciplinary action that was necessary, you and I probably can't have a conversation then because we're on two different paths.
Yeah.
When you have things that were going on in our department that were going on for a number of years, and here's one thing I'll say. The same thing was investigated 4 years ago in early 2020, 2021, right in there when Mr. Stewart had first become city manager. They looked at the same things. So it's been going on for a while. Like, you don't have all these people that work in the department and in the community coming forward and saying, hey, there's an issue here if there isn't an issue.
Right.
And I think the issue was discovered. If you go read the reports and care about it, you'll see why I think those things had to happen. Was it fun? No. Was it enjoyable for the city or the department? No. I mean, it sucked, honestly.
Right.
But it had to be done. And that's the thing, nobody else wants to do it. I will do it. People are like, why are you different? Because I'll get it done.
Right.
The police department had been investigated before for the same thing and it was swiped under, oh, no big deal, nothing happened. This time, guess what? When you look at those things that happen and you read those things in the report, we made sure that the changes that needed to be made were made. And whether you agree with them or not, I can't help that, but hopefully everybody understands why it had to be done.
Absolutely. Now we get to move on. Yep. We have an interim chief in place. there have been interviews, and we're coming to a final decision on the permanent replacement. Don't want you to talk about the actual candidates, but do want to talk about what's next for the police department. What kind of leadership's needed? What kind of person do we need to fill that role, so that way we can have a strong...
We need a strong leader, right? We need a strong leader that's involved with his people, that's involved with the department, that's involved with the community. Leadership is the key in this instance. I mean, it's the key in most instances in the city.
Yeah.
But in this instance, leadership is what we are looking for, and that's a strong leader, not a weak leader. And I'm not saying any of the candidates are weak leaders, so please don't take it as that. But we need strong leadership. We need somebody that's going to change the culture within the department to get away from some of the stuff that we are moving away from. And I will just say this. Chief Plessis, in his interim role, has done a fantastic job of doing the changing that he can make changes to in this period. I think he has done great. We've heard good things from the officers and out of the department. We need strong leadership to continue to change that culture. And then we also need strong leadership to change the culture of the PD's view within the community. The community, I think right now, is kind of 50-50 on how the PD is operating. You know, you hear good and you hear bad, but 9 times out of 10, you hear more bad than you do good. And that's unfortunate because we do a lot of good and have a lot of good things out of the PD. There's a lot of great people down there. We just need strong leadership, because that will change how that department acts. That will change how that department is received in the community. You know, I mean, all 3 candidates, when they were sitting up there, had very good answers for community involvement. That's what we haven't been seeing, right?
Right.
You know, when leadership doesn't show up to community events, why would the officers? And so we want to see some changes in there.
Absolutely. As mayor, do you feel like you play a role in any of that leadership? Obviously, there's the chief that's going to be that strong, and he has to be at those places. But as far as providing for a strong department and stuff like that, making sure that there's great morale within the department, things like that, what kind of role does the mayor play in that?
Well, again, you know, the chief of police answers directly to the city manager. So, I don't have a role in dictating how, as mayor, I wouldn't have a role in dictating how they run the department.
Right.
As a council, if we decide that there's something we want to change, that's a policy thing. So we would change it. But I would see my role as a mayor just to make sure that they understand that PD, the new chief, that they have my support and the council's support. We are there to help them in any way that they need.
Absolutely. Very good. Very good. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
What is the role of the mayor in Minot? It's a part-time job. You only do it 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week. What is the role as you see it?
Well,
obviously, I kid about the
right
hours.
now and in the last few years, in my opinion, I see the mayor's job as a figurehead job. You're out there as the cheerleader for the city. You're the face of Minot. You're the public perception and those types of things. And while that's fine, I'm not opposed to that. I think the mayor, more importantly, is the direct link from the council to the city staff, the government, the city manager, and those guys. And I think the mayor's role, while the other stuff is important, I think the mayor's role should be more interaction. And guidance, you know, helping the city and the manager say, hey, this is really what the council's looking for. This is the direction we want to go. These are the things we want to see. And how do we start to move that direction? You know, what do you guys think we need to do? How can we get there? Rather than the city coming to the council and saying, hey, this is what we want. And then going, okay, everybody get your people in line. And that's not good governance. It's really not.
Yeah. Very, very good. You guys have a couple of big issues that are going to be coming up after you get this mayor's thing figured out and get the 7th member of council appointed or voted on, however that works out.
Well, I think there's only going to be one choice.
Yeah, due to the timelines.
Well, if we seat the mayor, no matter who that is, hopefully it's me, but if we seat the mayor at the 2nd meeting of September, which is what they're talking about doing, then you have to go 90 days, or you have to give 15 days, which is the end of September, beginning of October. Then you have to give 95 days before the next election. Count out 95 days. October, November, December, you're into January. And then you're within 6 months of a normal election because there's a primary next June.
Yep.
So I don't believe, just based off of the timeline, I think we're going to, the citizens can come to us and say, hey, yep, here's the signatures. We want another election. But as soon as we give it to the state's going to go, nope, you're within 6 months of another election, so you can't do that. And I think we'll end up having to appoint somebody from taking applications.
So then if you were to win, obviously your seat is the one that'd be being appointed at that point.
Yep.
And there's a couple of tabled discussions and votes.
Yep.
One is for liquor license. The other is for flock.
Yep.
And I know that you kind of already addressed flock, but there's still a vote that's going to come in. It'll factor somewhat into the entire discussion. How does the process go to get that 7th person filled? Because you can't tell me that there's not going to be politicking going on with this vote being the deciding vote
for
on these issues.
So I think what we are, I think what we would end up having to do is saying, okay, we're opening the 7th slot. We're going to take applications for the next week. Anybody in the city that wants to be a member of city council, give us your application, and we'll sit down as a 6-member body and see if we can come to an agreement, whether it be a majority or a consensus, whatever, but that's the only way. And yes, there's going to be politicking, I'm sure. There's going to be talks behind the scenes about what everybody wants or what they want to try and get and this and that. I know there's already meetings going on in the community, with some council members and some past council members and elected officials and stuff like that. So there's always politicking, and that's what we need to get away from. That's the establishment. We don't want that anymore. We don't want that as a city. We don't want the behind the scenes stuff. We want it to be out in the open and transparent. And I think that's another one of those areas where we can show the city and the community, hey guys, we're going to be open and honest here. Here's the process, and here's what we want to do. Here's what we want to elect. This person is the most qualified, and if anybody says no, why are you not picking them then?
Right.
Let's hear your answers.
Yeah.
If this is the most qualified person for whatever reason, why aren't you voting for them? Right now, like this 3-3 thing that's going on, and I think everybody in the community can see it. You have the old guard who, in my mind, is kind of being obstructionist. They don't want to see any change. It removes their legacy and what they've done and they feel proud of. And so they're voting their way, and me and Scott and Mike are trying to move the city in another direction and trying to change how things are done. And we're being met with resistance on that. And, I get it. I understand it. Nobody likes to be told that, hey, we weren't fond of what you did, right? But ultimately, that's politics and that's city government. And that's where we're at right now, quite honestly.
Do you feel that there will be a consensus that will be able to have been come to by a council that is perhaps divided?
Well, again, I would hope as a council, rather than being political, because we're not supposed to be political. Rather than be political, we would sit up there as a group, all 6 of us, and look at what's best for the city. Not what's best for your friends, not what's best for this group of people or that group of people, but what's best for everybody, and put that person on. That is exactly what we should be doing.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, your campaign is going to be ramping up. How do people find out about you? Get a yard sign?
Well, I got about 30 yard signs left. I have all my big signs are gone. About 300 yard signs out there. So I got 30 yard signs left if anybody wants one. You can go to our Facebook page. There's a link tree on there. You can message me on Facebook. You can message me on my phone if you get online and find my cell phone number on the city's website. You can email me. You can do just about anything. I've had people reach out 1,000 different ways, and you're like, how'd they figure that out? But we also, if you see a sign out there, there's also a link tree on there. If you take your phone, hit the QR code, it'll take you to a site that says you can donate, you can request a yard sign, whatever you want to do. It'll take you to the Facebook page, it'll take you to the website, whatever you'd like.
So what is your message to somebody that is unsure of whether they want to take the time to even vote?
Okay. I would say if they are on the fence about voting, if you honestly want to see some change and you want to see a difference made in Minot, get out and vote. any of us cannot affect change unless we go vote. And, you know, people think, oh, well, my vote doesn't matter, or, hey, I'm not being heard.
25 votes in the last election.
You are being heard. You are being heard. Go vote. Get out there and vote. I mean, this vote for the mayor election is going to be, I think, pretty big in the city of Minot. It will determine if we want to keep doing the same things we've always done, if we want to go in a new direction, or if we want to get a little crazy. I think that's what we're going to see in this election. So I hope people go out and vote and want to see a change in a new direction, a stronger Minot.
You mentioned that about longevity. If elected, would you run again next year?
Absolutely. I'm not doing this just to pad my stats or, you know, have a title or something like that. That means nothing to me. Like, my job is to get on here and fix the things that the citizens, myself included, have thought were being run poorly in the city of Minot. Fiscal responsibility, transparency, integrity. Those are the things we want to bring back to the city council. But more than anything, common sense, right? This isn't about one group. It isn't about this person. It isn't about that person. It's about the whole community and what is best for the community. Common sense is something we talk about all the time, but we haven't seen a lot of it in the last however many years, whether it be federal, state, or local. We want to go back to that.
Last question. Is somebody, they are going to vote, but they're undecided? According to our survey, our polling data, there's a few that are undecided.
Okay.
Why should they vote for Alderman Rob Fuller?
Well, again, I think I'm going to bring strong leadership. I'm going to bring transparency. I'm going to bring integrity. I'm going to listen to the citizens of Minot. I'm not listening to the city and what they want. I'm listening to the citizens and what we want. It's our city. It's our money. So if you want to keep doing the same old thing and you're happy with the status quo, don't vote for me. But if you want to see a change, you want to see a fresh start and a stronger Minot, I'm your guy. Vote Rob Fuller on August 5th.
Very good. Appreciate you coming on today.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. Appreciate everyone for watching this episode of Minot Matters. This is part of our candidate series for our mayoral candidate series. We'll be doing one of these with hopefully every single candidate. Be sure to join us on June 17th at the Mouse River Players Theater, where we're going to be having all 4 candidates on one stage to talk about what they're going to do if elected. It's going to be a fun mayoral debate. You can catch that online, 106.9, or on stage at the Mouse River Players Theater. Thanks for watching this video, and have a great rest of your day.